The next speaker really needs no introduction, but I'd like to say something about him. I've had the great good fortune to be able to observe the leaders of extraordinarily successful organizations over the past 50 years. And by any standard, our next speaker is truly an exceptional leader. That is, of course, Mike King.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, I have to tell you, and everyone who knows me very well knows this, that Dick Cavanaugh has me wrapped around his little finger, okay? Because I so admire his accomplishments in life, his experiences, his wisdom, and his brilliance, that he could tell me to go jump off the top floor of this hotel, and I would go do it. I would literally go do it without asking any questions. So thank you, Dick, and thank you mainly for giving your service to us. It's kind of funny, when we met last summer, right after Dick was elected board chair, and he asked, what's the number one thing you would love for me to do and get done over the time of my tenure as board chair? I said, clone yourself. I mean, what we need are more Dick Cavanaughs, you know, and it takes a Dick Cavanaugh to recruit a Dick Cavanaugh for anyone who's done that kind of board recruitment. And so we are blessed. We are absolutely blessed to have this kind of leadership at this particular time. And we can, frankly, thank Ms. Hasselbein for having made that possible for us as part of our past. So it's absolutely wonderful. Today we're going to do a couple of different things. Number one is to really try to share with you some exciting new results around our branding efforts, to really talk about how we're trying to build the brand and the kind of effects we've had there and the kind of impact we've had there. And to sort of set the tone for that, all that is really about communicating. And if there's one thing I've noticed just in today's session, is that we have become so good at communicating and finding out ways to communicate. And one of the reasons we have done that is because we have the best in-house production team in the nonprofit sector. Absolutely the best. They're sitting right over there. Hope Gibbs and Alejandro Rosas, right there. We have the best there is, and I want to show you the most recent work they've done, and that is the video of our annual report, and let's show that right now. You'll never forget the looks on the faces of the people that we serve, coming from circumstances of addiction, aging, receiving news that is devastating to them, maybe being evacuated from their home in circumstances that can't be controlled or influenced. When you meet a person where they are, in their moment of devastation, it makes an impression on you that you never get past. And the truth is, I don't want to get past it. I want to always have that look in my memory. I want to know and be current with what that person felt like at that moment. To know that, yes, they have an urgent need, and there's a reason why we're there to serve it. And so we need to be as creative, as innovative, and as passionate about uncovering every possibility to service that need at that moment so that we can take that look off their face.
At one time, we felt like nobody understood us. And being here and processing situations, we all have similar issues, similar trust issues, similar combat issues, nightmares, disassociating from reality and not wanting to be in reality. I don't feel like I've amounted to anything because of my alcoholism, because of all the stuff that I've done. And being here at Volunteers of America makes me feel like I've amounted to something.
Virtually every service we provide at Volunteers of America, from both our caregiver side as well as the people they're caregiving for, most have experienced some form of moral injury.
So nothing could be more congruent with who we are and what we do than to learn more about this particular term, more about this concept, and more about how to deal with it.
Then the task you have coming out of that is how do you then build a moral identity again that doesn't deny what happened, but will give you the strength to move forward.
One of the things we think a lot about with our youth work is our main role is to prevent homeless youth from becoming homeless adults. Being on the street is an incredibly disenfranchising experience, and most of the kind of deepest trauma comes from just thinking that no one cares. We have found services that can help the most vulnerable, folks that have nowhere else to go.
Feel like we're getting old and not wanted. You're not just kicked aside. Places like this helps people. It's just a great organization, and that helps a whole lot.
I came in here just broken. I was lost. I thought my life is going to be the streets and drugs without my kids, without my family. Everything that I needed help with in my life, I got help with here. They believed in me. This is a chance to change your life. It saved my life.
You never forget it. The trauma will always be there as a part of who you are, and you can let it be a part of who you are in a negative way, or you can decide to let what happened to you be a way to inform who you become. It takes more than your ability on your own to think your way out of it. It really takes a support system. It takes people who can listen to the anguish that you might be in and support you in the recovery process.
No matter where you go, and when you see a Volunteers of America program and you meet the employees and the volunteers that work in it, there's a passion in their eyes that is unmistakable. It's unmistakable. That's that passion in those eyes.
I think that's a wonderful piece of work, and thank you, team, for that wonderful piece of work. It's on the website. Use it with your donors. Use it to let the message be shouted from the rooftops about us and what we do. And you'll see also that it is having an effect. Our goal this year was to break 35% in awareness, and that's literally done from a tracking survey that's done every year, and that's where we literally go ask people, have you ever heard of Volunteers of America? And we want over 35% of them to say yes. I have. We did break that. We hit 38% this year, saying yes to that. Yes. And that's you they know about. That's you. And that's great. It was absolutely great news. And there's other good news buried within that tracking study that beyond about 4 out of 10 folks saying, yes, they've heard of us. Last year, for the first time, we actually scored on what's called unaided awareness. And that's when we literally go ask people, name the first 2 or 3 charities you think of when you think of charities, and see how many times our name gets mentioned in that. Well, before we scheduled, we scored 0 for years. Last year, for the first time, we scored. We absolutely scored, and we wondered, geez, was that a fluke? Did they get one of our relatives? I mean, what happened there, when we scored 1%? Well, this year, we scored 2%, okay? We doubled it. We got 2%. It wasn't a fluke. We don't have that many relatives, okay? It's the real deal. And in fact, when we compared it on certain other charts and surveys to some of our competition, we were sort of right there with some of them, okay? American Cancer Society scored 3% on that very same question. So you see, we're actually making serious headway there. That's not an accident. That is no accident. That's because of what you have done, each of you, in the trenches and on the streets and with your local media, as well as what we try to do on a national level. That's absolutely key for us, absolutely key for us. Also, when asked the question about name your favorite organizations, which is kind of similar to it, similar to that past question, when you look down into, and talking about millennials, into the ages of 18 to 24, we outscore, in that particular category, we outscore United Way, Feeding America, and Susan G. Komen. We outscore them. Okay? We're not trailing the pack. And we're not going to trail the pack. Not now, not ever. Key audience for us is millennials. You know, the only reason why they don't go above baby boomers in the job stat that you saw is because they're having trouble finding those jobs. Because in fact, they do outnumber baby boomers as far as general population, 27% to 24%. For the first time moved ahead. For the first time, baby boomers are no longer the largest target audience. We're not. Millennials are. That's the key to our future. It's actually the key to our present. And what you heard a little bit yesterday, I think Russ mentioned a couple of times that the fact that the ministry program is looking about having an app, a mobile app around ministry. Every consultant that you talk to around digital and millennials will tell you, you have to be mobile. You have to be mobile. You cannot depend on a laptop. You must be mobile. Everything is done with the phone. It's a brilliant idea on the part of our ministry to bring an idea of coordinating that work with the Millennials Project. This is what we've got to continue doing because that's how we're going to go even larger on that scale as far as unaided recognition for us. It's absolutely critical for us. Now, another piece, when we literally rate different elements that are most important to donors, Volunteers of America actually scores the highest in the areas of seeing the impact of your gift and giving and using the gift efficiently. We score the highest of all of our competition. That's because of you. That's because of what you produced. We show it on films. It's what you produce with those gifts that enable that to take place. Then when the same kind of tracking survey, when we asked them, name 5 or 6, 7 the most critical factors that determine whether you get engaged in an organization or not. One of those factors is helping the most vulnerable was listed in the top 8 factors. Well, what's our tagline? What is our tagline? Helping America's most vulnerable. We have to use that and use that and use that and use that. We have scientific evidence that tells us it's one of the most important things that donors are looking for as they decide who they're going to support. It's a golden opportunity for us. Now, how did this happen? How did we get to this place so quickly? Well, let's show the in-kind slide. We have leveraged paid advertising with in-kind gift advertising. And this past year, we literally launched a new billboard campaign. You see it right there on the screen. It appeared in 148 cities. Over $3.5 million of donated space and time in front of folks. In addition to that, print ads, almost $2 million of donated print ads appearing in magazines, including the NFL preview issue of Sports Illustrated and 20 times in the Wall Street Journal. It takes a village. It takes a village of all of this effort to really build that brand. And you know, in addition to that, last night we had a wonderful dinner with our wonderful donors after the worship service. And a good part of the evening is I was visiting with our friends from HSBC, who of course have sponsored our work with veterans this past year and the new work specifically with moral injury, was spent talking about how much they enjoyed seeing our golf tournament, the Volunteers of America Texas Shootout. And so could we quickly show sort of the highlight reel from that experience, and you're going to get a taste of that experience next year as we overlap those two events, this event along with the tournament that carries our name. You remember last year when we were at our conference, I shared with you that we had pitched an idea to the LPGA Tour about, can we sort of recreate those old spots that you used to see with linking the NFL and United Way, and sort of communicate to the nation that Volunteers of America is the charity of choice for the LPGA, and do that through a commercial ad series. And they said yes to that. We pitched that then to our good friends at the Richards Group. They came up with a literally brilliant idea and concept on it that we shot at the tournament this year. They began airing about 3 weeks ago. They have gotten tremendous response and reviews. I want you to get a chance to see the first 3 spots of those right now. So if we could air the 3 spots that we have.
Having talent is one thing, but you have to do the work. I spend about 2 hours a day on my swing, another 2 on my short game, every day. Because hard work is the only way to improve your game. That's just what you have to do.
There's a sweet spot. Hit that spot right, and you get distance, power, accuracy. That's impact. That's why we practice as much as we do.
I know what it's like to feel like an outsider. I was 16 when I moved to the United States to play golf. I didn't speak English, I didn't know anyone, I just knew how to play golf. And I know what it's like to be surrounded by people who believe in you. It's people like that who makes all the difference.
I saw Michael Nortman come in, our best friend at the Richards Group. Where are you, Michael? I want you to stand up and take a round of applause for the wonderful, there he is, right back there. Some beautiful work, so watch for it on the Golf Channel, watch for it on NBC when they're airing a major. That's where it aired first, was on NBC just a few weeks ago. It's a wonderful piece of work. Thank you, Michael. And just so folks know, we are running over, and we're going to run a few more minutes over, but you know what? It's our conference. It's our conference. Of course, why we do this, why it's important to build the brand, is because of the work that you guys do, not the work that I do. It's the work that you do every day, the impact we have on people's lives, and that's never told any better than the work that we've just launched in moral injury. There's no question that it's had an incredible impact. We had 4 convenings this year, again, thanks to the grant from HSBC, in Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, New York, and just a few days ago here in Chicago, bringing together scholars and clinicians and practitioners from the field to really talk to us about this, and veterans themselves and other folks who suffer from this concern and this issue, sharing with us. And you know, sometimes you walk into something that you don't expect to hit you the way it does, and yet something then just hits you right square between the eyes that makes you sort of rethink everything that you had imagined before that. And I have to confess to you, I had that experience a few days ago at the Thursday session. We had a young man there named Victor Legrune from the Mayor's Veterans Affairs office here in Chicago. Wonderful young man. We had heard during the day a clinician share with us about how one of the ways that some folks cope with moral injury is that they sort of cram life full of activity and behavior, much of it dysfunctional at times, maybe some of it functional, literally to avoid thinking about it, because that's their way of running away from the pain and dealing with that pain every day that they feel, and they don't want to have to think about it. And so that's what they do. And Victor shared that he was from a very celebrated division that he was quite proud of and proud to have served in, called the 10th Mountain Division, that currently trains in upstate New York, and he had trained in that division to go fight in the mountains of Afghanistan. And I was struck by that because I'm sure, as Diana Kuntz knows, the 10th Mountain Division began during World War II. Began during World War II and trained in Colorado. I know that because my father served in it. And I'd never heard anyone mention that division since that time. And it was celebrated because it was such a gruesome, difficult task to have combat in the middle of mountains and without technology. And it was difficult. It was incredibly, incredibly difficult. In the combat that my father served in, he earned the Silver Star for bravery, for having exposed himself to the enemy fire, to get in position to take out a sniper that was killing his men. A few weeks later, again in the mountains in Italy, was shot through the stomach. Exit wound missed his spine by about an inch, because I could always see it on his back, the exit wound from that. And he didn't tell me any of this. I had to read about it in old newspaper clippings that my mom had saved in a scrapbook, because he, like other veterans, didn't talk about this stuff at all. And yet, through the conversation with Victor and with the clinicians, I began to understand a bit why Pop lived as hard and as fast as he did. He was driven, he was successful, it paid too high of a price. In reality, he worked too much, smoked too much, drank too much. Passed away at age 50 from multiple ailments related to that lifestyle. He was not a bad man, he was a good man. He was a good man. Always taught the largest Sunday school class at church because he was always in demand as a speaker. Was the first union man to be labor commissioner in the state of Texas. He was used to being outnumbered, to be a labor man in the state of Texas. When I shared with him my intentions to enter the ministry, I was just in high school at the time, and it wasn't until then that he shared with me that he was, in fact, attending East Texas Bible College when World War II broke out to do the same. And like so many others, the minute it broke out, he went and enlisted for service. It made me realize, as I kept processing that over the last few days, that if our work in moral injury, in the training, the dialogue, the peer-to-peer relationship, if that had been available to Pop when he came home, then maybe he lives long enough to see his son grow up. Maybe he lives long enough to meet his grandsons. And maybe, just maybe, he lives long enough to meet his great-granddaughters. It's the stark reality that this work truly has the capacity to change lives of families, not just individuals. It has long arms. It has a far reach. It has the power to change the lives of entire families and what happens as we go forward. It gave me a deep sense of thankfulness that I get to be here right now, that I get to work with you right now on this incredibly important endeavor, and that we can have that kind of impact on the lives of Americans who are suffering from this, from whatever cause, and bring soothing to that pain in a functional way to move forward. And I can tell you, I would rather join hands with no other than you than to pursue that mission. God bless you, and thank you.